Hi, and welcome to Canadianish Comedians. I'm Laura Toogood.
And I'm Julie Betts.
Today, we are lucky to have an actor, writer, director, and improviser on our show, the fabulous Stephanie Herrera. Hi, Steph.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Stephanie is an honors graduate of the York University Theatre Playwright program and is currently a Writers Guild of Canada member and award winner, writing for TV and film as well as for kids animation. Stephanie has written, directed, produced, and performed in over 10 original dinner theatre shows that have toured Ontario. Her slate of work also contains dozens of sketch and comedy shows, including the Toronto Fringe Festival. She founded Durham Improv, where she produced hundreds of live comedy shows, 2 seasons of Stephanie's Comedy Chat on Rogers TV, which inspired her to publish a book called The 10 Commandments of Improvising. An active member of ACTRA Toronto, you can see her in a variety of commercials, TV shows, plus Lifetime and Hallmark movies. She is also the mother of 4 kids. What?
Because I wasn't busy enough.
Yeah. And that kind of leads us to the first question, which I feel that we're asking all of these amazing women in comedy or people in comedy. How do you find the time to do it all?
You marry someone who's not in the arts.
Oh, true, right?
My $1 million answer. It literally having, and I know some people that do it, and they're like, I know actors that are married to each other and they have a child, but just that stress of, who's going to get another gig so we can eat next year, or his, and also limit themselves to usually one child because they're like, we can't possibly afford a second. Whereas I always had that beautiful luxury of having a husband that had a steady job and benefits and
nice
that a family would need. And sometimes it was a matter of like, he would come home from work and I'd hand them off going, I got a show tonight here, you take over. So he's always been he's been my biggest cheerleader and always, anytime I said, those moments in your career when you're like, should we move to LA? Should we move to New York? Like, should I? And he goes, well, if you want to, I'll find a job. Like, we'll figure it out. He always says, we'll figure it out. What if I book this in Vancouver? We'll figure it out. Like, he's always been really, really great about that. So it's, find the person that's going to support you. Yeah. And I haven't dated too much in the arts, but there's a little competition when you date somebody in the arts.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. That's so great to find somebody that's that supportive. Like, and he is a gem because there are not many like him out there. From what I've seen.
Absolutely. And I tell people, well, I've met a few people. The more I talk about it, some people are like, oh, same with us. And we tell each other these great little stories. Like my husband, I tell people I get paid to cheat on my husband because I so many
really
people, and it's usually younger men. I usually play cougar.
Nice.
So I usually get these, 20, 30-year-old hot guys. And my poor husband has to be like a lot of people have said to him, well, what do you think? Or like, what do you tell her? And he's like, what am I going to say? No, you can't. Like, she's a grown woman. I met her as an actor. I'm not going to make it. I'm not thrilled. However, this is what makes her happy. And that's cool. I had one person did a little day player thing on The Boys and got to hang out with like Simon Pegg and people like, and the main characters, which was really cool. And one of the characters, one of the actresses, she said that her husband they have this great little joke where no matter when she goes off to do like a sex scene or whatever, her husband always says, you love me, right? And she goes, I love you. And that's all they have to say is, did you have a good day at work? And she goes, yeah, it was pretty interesting. He goes, yeah. She goes, that's enough said.
Was there a sock involved? No.
Oh, she had great stories about that kind of stuff. I'm like, I haven't gotten to that far.
Well, they now have intimacy coordinators for film and television.
My last one I did, it's another Out TV show. It's called We Three Queens. I keep saying Kings.
Yeah.
We Three Queens. It's going to be on Out TV. And it was, that was my first time working with an intimacy coordinator because it was me hiring a guy because I'm a powerful woman in her office and I hired a toy and he showed up. And so we literally went over beat by, it was really interesting to the point that, I understand when people say it's so methodical and thought out and choreographed that there's no real,
like, where do you go for training to become an intimacy coordinator? That's what I want to know.
ACTRA has them. People, it's open and ACTRA runs them. So that people can get certified.
There you go, Julie.
That's great. Well, there's my new career. Goodbye, kids. I'm going to go sign up now.
So just taking a step back, you started in sales, and what drove you to get into comedy and acting? Because sales is a whole different animal.
Yeah, I think it was the other way around. I've always been, look at me, kid. My Fringe show really kind of got into that whole thing. The Fringe show is called Am I Pretty Now? A Musical Romp Through Plastic Surgery, which is autobiographical because I grew up with a major conflict of how I looked. I was a very outgoing child. I was like, Mommy, look at me. I'm a single mom. She was exhausted for this talkative little thing. So she would sometimes I'd be like, I want to be on TV. And she'd take me out to auditions and I'd book a commercial. And then she's like, okay, that's it. Is that over yet? But she always knew that I had this drive. I was the lead in all the school plays. And I always had this drive to be a performer. Then as I got older, and then we were also in Kitchener for the first couple of years of my life. She went to the University of Waterloo. She was getting her master's. So that was my first memories. When we came back to Toronto, it was just sort of my outlet was here in Toronto with the Second City training, theater sports training, and obviously with York University. And then all the shows that I was in outside of school and doing what I could to sink my teeth into it and really take a good try at it. Through all of that, my first real good paying job was at York University, where I had a little reception job on Saturdays, like a resume that was like nothing. And I went in to the School of Business. They were looking for somebody at night to do a call to alumni to ask for donations. And so I went in and I said, I don't have much of a resume, and I'm chatting. He just looks down and he goes, wait a minute, you're in the theater program? And I said, yeah. And he said, so you can pretend you're having a good day when you're not? I'm like, yes, I can. And he's like, you're hired. So that immediately became one of my things that I would say now, and I brought in thousands of dollars to the point where they created a team because they're like, we had no idea there was this much money available. So it was one of those things that kind of went hand in hand, that throughout from then on, I've always been in some kind of sales, whether it's even restaurant. I consider restaurant work is sales, bartending, waitressing, but I've been in the regular retail as well as all the corporate sales stuff. And I just find that actors do so well because we can pretend we're having a good day, because we are good at listening, the improvisers. And that led me into corporate improv, where I started training people because I realized all of these wonderful gifts that improvisers have that can go move into your personal life, your business life, that makes you an efficient salesperson, whether you're selling yourself or a product or service.
My company that I work for full time, they've done it a couple of times where once we went down to Second City, they took all the managers down and we did improv, and they brought somebody in one time to teach an improv class. And it was like, it makes such a difference. Like when you learn yes and your attitude changes and you're just always like super positive as opposed to being a naysayer or whatever, you get much further.
Absolutely.
So it's such a valuable tool to have.
Yeah, and it doesn't even matter what type of business you're in. It helps right across the board. A friend of mine who's a lawyer, they took the what is it when like the public lawyers, they took them to an improv class just to get them out of their heads, and it helps with performance in the courtrooms as well.
Absolutely. I started the improv classes at Fleming and Durham College.
Cool.
Fleming College was really cool because sometimes I would have an entire, and all the students would sign up together. So sometimes I'd have an entire class of just HVAC guys.
Okay. My son did HVAC at Fleming.
Okay.
And he did the improv class and he had a blast.
Oh, it's so fun. So it really helped them because then they learned some things because a lot of them were interested in not only for job interviews, but also starting their own business. How am I going to approach people? How am I going to be like friendly to anybody, talk to anyone? I had this one group that was all early childhood educators, and they all signed up together, which was phenomenal. And then, a couple weeks, if not a month in, a woman's standing by my door waiting. And I kind of walk up and she's like, are you the instructor? And I was like, yes. And she's like, are you the professor? They called me. And I was like, yes. And she goes, can I speak to you a minute? And all my students in the room went, oh, you're in trouble. And so she walked up and she's like, hi, I'm the head of the children's the education program. I don't know if you really realize the type of people the type of, because I have boys and girls, or men and women, take the class. She said, I don't know if you understand the personality of people that get into early childhood education. Really, it's people who don't like to deal with adults. They're shyer, they're quieter. They find that they're more comfortable with children. And I was like, no, I hadn't realized that. And she's like, so those kids are in your class and they went from, I don't even know what they sounded like. They're actually speaking. What are you doing? Like, it's one of those, like,
Wow.
what are you doing? They're coming out of their shell and they're like more outgoing. And I'm like, oh, we play games. And, that came too with my work with people with special needs, working through community living. They and that was a literal thing. They said to me, Stephanie, there are people here that are labeled as nonverbal. And when you're here, they're speaking. Like, what is this magic? And I went, we're being goofy and having fun. And
That's beautiful.
and, yeah, doing yes and games and red ball. And
So cool.
it's
Oh,
really,
yeah.
it is so powerful.
I have trouble with red ball.
Red
Or was that Red Bull? No.
Bull, both.
Wow, that's fantastic.
That's so great. I don't think, again, and a common theme through the podcast is, I don't think that people realize the power of play and laughter,
Mhm.
and you've just exemplified it like perfectly, because it's so important to everyone, and I feel bad for the people that don't know how to do that are too caught up in their lives that they've lost the joy and magic of it. So
Yeah.
good for you for bringing it back out to everybody.
Oh,
Are you
for sure.
Are you still doing a lot of improv teaching, or?
Not as much because of COVID. We had a big show with Colin Mockery. He used to come out every year. We do a big show, and it was June of that year. I think it was, and I'm like, it'll blow over. My husband's like, this is not going away. I'm like, oh crap. So it was one of those, it was heartbreaking. So all the live stuff stopped. Our classes stopped with Durham Improv, and unfortunately we did have to close down during COVID. So what I was doing was I was invited to do a lot of stuff online. So I was doing a couple of improv shows online. I have to say it was really strange, and I stopped because I found it was, once I was in it, I was having fun. The problem is when you can't hear the audience and it's just you and your camera, I'm like, is this funny? I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm like screaming at the camera and doing goofy things. And then when I'm done, all the screens would pop back up and I could see people like laughing or just typing, like, I can't breathe, I'm laughing. And I'm like, but I don't hear it. So it was really strange. So I haven't done too much. A couple of corporate things have popped up, and some schools. Sometimes I get some schools coming. They're like, I know you don't do too much, but would you come out and do a workshop or show? I'm like, sure. I'll pull up some friends together. Yeah. And we'll do something because it's in my blood.
Yeah. So based on your social media posts, your children have obviously inherited your funny bone. Where do you see that headed? Like doctors, lawyers, accountants? Where do you think they're going to go?
Oh, absolutely. They have no interest in what I do. I keep putting them. I used to say I pimp my kids out for gigs all the time. I've had people say, oh, I need a kid for a movie. I'm like, I got a kid. And that's how their career went, was somebody was like, well, I need something, a girl or a boy. And I would put my kids forward. And a lot of times they booked it. My two older kids when they were younger, had incredible voiceover careers. Like my son 1 year made more in voiceovers than I did. He had this gorgeous squeaky voice. He did this podcast that it was like a radio play in England, and he got, I think, 3 seasons, and it was really great. And they would just have him in the studio in Toronto, and he just like all day he was like doing these voiceovers. So he did really well. They enjoyed that more than, because I put them in dance and I got them into the improv classes, obviously, because we were teaching them. So I'm like, come on. And they were great at it. But one day they were like, Mom, this is your thing. Like, you're the actor. This is not what we want to do. My 2 girls are going into arts. Like their ability to draw is unbelievable. So they're both going in that way, probably in animation. The boys are more computer boys. I mean, they're all game like crazy, like most kids today. So, but my oldest son is potentially going into game development, maybe. He's got a couple of years, but my oldest is just going in, and she got accepted to the Durham College animation program. So she's going to go through that.
Good for her.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome. Awesome.
You haven't stuck your husband into any of the
I have. He's had to do a couple of things with me. And my darling husband is my reader, like most couples at home, where everything's self-tape. I mean, I kind of like, this is the one thing I actually can say on the other side of COVID, I actually like that came out of COVID, which is I have not been in an audition room in 3 years. I know a lot of people really appreciate it, to work with the director, to have that opportunity to, get feedback right there in the room. I love that I can just whip out 4 self-tapes in a night at the end of the week and just be like done, and not have to drive into Toronto and do all that kind of stuff. So my husband is my reader, and so he's
great.
He's a hoot.
Has he landed any gigs from being your reader? Like, has anyone been like,
about that.
He
goes,
good.
Today, this is the one I'm going to book. So he's a great support. So, a lot of change with it. And I pivoted a lot. I did a lot more writing during COVID as well. I pivoted from my regular blue adult stuff to kids animation. And that's how I was able to join the Writers Union, was doing kids animation. So I've written on 3 shows so far. So
congratulations on your award.
Yes.
Thank you. It's nice. It was a nice little surprise. And through that, some people reached out to me, some other creatives, and now I'm collaborating on a couple of really neat projects. So we'll
fabulous.
see.
Yay.
Throw everything at the wall, as they say.
Yep. Right.
So speaking of actors and things, why do you insist all actors should take improv classes?
Oh gosh. One of the main ones that I used to joke about it and people didn't believe me, but for me, it's absolutely true, is I always tell people I don't get nervous in auditions. Even when we were back on stage singing our guts out for people, or in a room with an audition, and people are like, you're lying. That's not possible. How can you even say that? I said, because I've been in front of hundreds of people who bought a ticket for improv, and then they're sitting there going, okay, make it up.
Yeah.
And
Be funny.
I've had to go, okay, let's see how it goes. So that is the most stress probably. And it is not stress. It's good stress. It's that gets me out. That's my jumping out of instead of parachuting and stuff. That's what I do. I jump on stage and go, I hope this doesn't suck, basically. So that in itself, by putting yourself through these little stressful situations, and improv is the most safe kind of stressful situation you can be in, then you're walking into audition rooms going, you know what? I'm so lucky. I got lines. I'm way ahead of the improv game. And then you go in, and I always say, do your first take. And when they start directing you, then it's time to play. It's exactly like improv. And when people get notes, I've seen actors get notes and they take it personally. They start questioning their decisions. Did I do it wrong the first time? And in improv, we're so used to all those games that are like, should have said, we're doing should have said, or changing genres. And so we're so used to flipping on a dime that we're like, okay. And we take the note and we just do it, because no judgment. And again, like you said, all about getting it out of your head. It's not about what my performance. Sometimes the director is like, damn, they nailed it on the first time. Let's give them something so left field and see if they can take direction. So I always say improv will really give a base. A lot of times, particularly with the non-union world, a lot of people do those reenactment shows, which I did my fair share. And those auditions are completely improvised. So you're getting a synopsis. You walk in a room with another person you've never met, and now you're improvising dramatic scenes. You're crying, you're killing each other, like whatever it is. You're having these intense improvised moments that are determining if you get the part. So just having that foundation of improv is going to help the career in so many ways.
That's good to know. It's really good to know. Yeah.
That's great. So speaking of like improv and acting and all of the rest of that, what drove you to do your Am I Pretty Now, a musical run through plastic surgery?
I have to say my inspiration was my good friend Anne-Marie Scheffler, who teaches a course. She was called the Queen of the Fringe years ago, because I think she has 8 or 9 one-woman shows, and she teaches that everyone has a one-person show in them, and that's her whole model. So I took a weekend course with her. Martha Chavez, the comedian, was in that group. It was a really small group. I think there were 4 of us. And as we're speaking, she's like, so you just need to figure out, this weekend is all about figuring out what you're going to write about. What's your story? What one of your many stories are you going to tell in this one? So I came in, it was like a weekend. So the next day we had to come in, and I said, or at the end of the first day, I was like, I get it. I got it. I know what I'm going to write my show about. And they said, what? And I said, plastic surgery. And Martha was like, oh, that's great. Because then you can, your message to everyone is, love yourself the way you are. And I went, no, that's not what that's not my message at all. My message will be, if you can afford to do it, then do it, but make sure you're doing it for you, because nobody else cares. And that's what I had to learn through my whole experience, coming out the other side of it, going, oh my God, all that pain and suffering and all that kind of stuff that I went through, I came out the other side. Even my own mother was like, what did you get done? I don't even notice. Like, so people, it was so for me that I could, look at myself in the mirror and go, okay, I like that better. So it was one of those things where, and then from there, Anne-Marie, said, hey, I'm doing a 6-week course. And some people at the end of it have they've written a first draft. And I said, great. And she maybe jokingly said, so sign up for those 1-person shows. I was like, okay. And then sure enough, on an Instagram or Facebook, Solocom in New York City said taking submissions, and all they needed was like a poster, like an idea, something. They just needed you to submit. Yeah. And at the end of Anne-Marie's first session, she always encouraged to have your poster in your head, people drawing it out. And she goes, now go, your assignment is go and get it shot and made a poster. And then you put that poster by your desk. And when you write, you can always look at it and remind yourself, I had a poster. Yeah. Like, there you go. And then I signed up for her course and said, now I need a script, because in 3 months, I got into the Solocom Festival, and that was where it actually first played, was out on off Broadway, I guess. They said it was off. But and in the Solocom Festival, which was really great. And that drove me then to retool it and turn it more into theater. When I got accepted into the Toronto Fringe, I won the lottery and got into the Fringe. And then I got Conrad Coates to direct me. And he and I became such good friends. I hired him as my director. Now he and I are huge friends. And then turned it more into a theatrical experience. Before it was a cabaret, and then it became a theatrical experience where I take the audience and I, laughing songs, they're all my songs. And then we go down, I really go deep into why I did it and the kind of the dark. And then I get everyone to cry. And then I come out the other end with a song, and I sing from chorus line, tits and ass, bought myself a fancy pair. At the end, just to get everyone hearing at the end. Yeah.
Do you see yourself resurrecting it at all?
I would really like to do it. There is a wonderful opportunity out in Alberta. A friend of mine is doing, and I will give you the name of the company because I keep forgetting what the actual thing is called. It's a showcase. There are these incredible showcases that why can't I find it now? TP. Oh, it's always, I don't know. Edit this part out. The showcase that takes place in Alberta, that's going to be happening in April, and she has some people from Mirvish and Stratford coming to watch. Wow. So it's a 10-minute showcase that's going to be happening. So she said to me, my day job is entertainment insurance. And so she asked me, we're talking about the insurance stuff. And then she said, on a personal note, are you coming and presenting? And I was like, oh, that's such a tempting thing. So she's asked me to come out, and I'm thinking, you know what, if I do that and I had any interest in it, I would totally bring that back.
Netflix or one of the streamers.
Yeah. It's called, the Great Canadian Playwright Showcase.
Nice.
TGCPS. So if anyone's interested, she's taking people and they're just signing up themselves. If they get themselves out there, 10 minutes in front of, and also that schools and production companies are coming out to watch. Wow. Sometimes people's plays, schools buy them and then use them as school plays. So it's a great showcase. And this is the first one in Alberta that she's doing. And the fact that she got Mirvish and Stratford. Yes, I would love to record it as well. Some people, the late Ron Leach, I'm sure you've heard, Ron Leach, casting agent, has passed away. He was my first acting coach 20 some odd years ago. So he and I have been friends for a long time. He came to see my show when it was in the Fringe, surprised me. He was, there. And I said, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's watching. He goes, of course. He was the first one that was like, this should be a movie. And then years after he's like, I would help you produce. I'd like everything. I started trying to write it. I'm like, this isn't working. And then my agent said, this should be a TV show, and watch the progression. And I was like, yes. And I'm like, sure. And I just can't, I need someone to write it for me. I'm too close to the material as a one-woman show. I think I really need to collaborate on it, and I got to do it soon because I'm getting too old to play myself.
Hey, listen, we have a friend who does screenwriting, and he teaches a course at UNB, Terry Armstrong. Okay. And a lot of the times you just have to submit the idea, and they buy your idea and they will write it. They will do everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that I kind of
Make it a
have on the back
show.
burner because I've got some other shows that my literary agent and I are shopping around, but that's always on the back burner. She said, what do you want to do with this? And I said, let's put it aside for now, but
Yeah.
we have to revisit it, particularly in April.
Yeah.
So do you think one of your daughters would play a younger version of you?
No, there's no way.
Okay.
I like that. No.
They take after their father a lot with the
Okay.
whole like, you're all about attention. We don't really want it. Thanks very much.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's,
How long is that show? Like when you
It's-
do
oh,
it on?
I was in the 60-minute time slot. So I
Okay.
had some other songs. I was writing some additional songs. And then the dream is, I mean, for me, Mervish was perfect because I could see myself with other actors because there's different one-person shows, as Anne Marie points out. And one of them is a show with other people in it. So it's a one-person
Yeah.
show with other people in it. So you get a supporting cast. Martin Short had a one-man show.
Yeah.
He had a whole cast. And that's great because then I don't have to play all the characters as well, which would be great. And then I can have dancers and it could be more of a spectacle because I really wanted it to be.
It's amazing.
Oh yeah, real showpiece.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Well-
awesome. Do it, do it, do it.
I'll let you know if it happens.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully we follow you on your social media, so we'll be able to see
Yes.
if you put anything out there. We'll definitely be part of it. So you mentioned a couple of times that you're collaborating with other writers. What type of projects are you working on? And
Yeah, so they're both for writing and they're both adult comedies as well. I love to sit in the comedy as we talked about. It's just such a great, it's a vibe, right? It
Mhm.
keeps your energy up. We find that after comedy shows and particularly improv, we'd all go out to eat dinner after. Everyone's like talking and your adrenaline's going. It's great. When I do dramatic roles, everyone goes home to sleep.
oh, stop.
It's true. When you're crying all day or,
Yeah.
it's all like intense drama, it's usually exhausting. So I always like to
Yes.
sit in that comedy world. So I had two writers sort of reach out to me. And some things on the go workshopping. It's really interesting collaborating because as writers, we write usually alone.
Mhm.
So it's been a really interesting thing to work and find that dynamic of working with someone because you're writing this dialogue for the same characters, but you're two different people. So it's very interesting, I have to say. So we'll see. I mean, they're all been kind of sent out and shopping around right now. So
Awesome.
fingers crossed.
Nice.
I like to sit in the TV space personally,
Yes.
which is kind of I just find writing 30 pages is so much easier than writing 90. Like I haven't written a feature yet because of that. Like, oh no, that's a lot
daunting.
of pages. It is.
Yeah.
It's like writing a novel. It's there. I mean, my book, you've seen it. It's not that big. I don't like to write that much because if I can get it, and kids space actually even taught me even to be more conservative with my words because now you're
Mhm.
going from a 30-page script and I was writing 11 and then I wrote some 7-page. So within 7 pages, you have to introduce the premise, you have to have the problem, you have the solution, and it all like wrapped up in 7 pages, which is really difficult. So it just makes your writing a little bit more cleaner and getting to the point and still being fun. So I just like to sit in that TV space.
Yeah, 'cause
Absolutely.
if I think about a children's book, there are very few words and there's a lot of action in the graphics.
Yeah.
Like whether it's expressive or someone's doing something. I could see where that could be a little bit easier and not as laborious, let's say.
Yes. Yeah. And for kids animation, the same thing. You have a lot more description of what's happening and you have to find the funny in those pratfalls and the goofy expressions and yeah.
So you just dropped a little nugget there about your first book. Tell us a little bit about that and what inspired you.
I think it was really all the corporate training I was doing. And I was also getting to be invited as a guest speaker at events. And then the first question that I always say is, do you have a book? I was like, oh. And then I noticed that the keynote always had a book. And I'm like, is that going to get me keynotes? And it did. Once you get a book, people are like, oh, and she's going to be talking about her book. And then you have it and then you sell it at a table. And I was like, this is great. So that really, it came out of like, once I realized, okay, I need to write a book, then why is my book going to be any different? So I just took the concept of all the things that kind of irritated me about watching other improvisers, because anybody can just say, we're an improv troupe, and then suddenly start charging tickets. And my husband, very soon after, I probably like 10 years into a relationship, he goes, I'm done. I'm never going to an improv show again. Like, that's it. He goes, I go to watch you and and we're usually on at the end because we're the headliner. But he goes to sift through all the garbage that goes on and the people just trying to be funny and all that stuff that's just hard, like rakes, like nails down a chalkboard for him. He's like, I'm done. So I took everything that kind of irritated me and then spun it to be kind of more fun in the sense. So the concept of doing the 10 commandments. Okay, I can give 10 rules of improv that everybody should follow. And then kind of came up with that idea of calling it the 10 commandments. And creating it as each chapter begins with the God of improv speaking, thou shalt and do the commandment, sort of that funny. And then it goes into me giving descriptions and explaining a little bit more what that commandment.
Who was that hottie on the cover? It looked
That
like
he was one of my former students, Dave. Unfortunately, he passed away from cancer. I lost him, but I was, so I have him immortalized as Moses.
Oh
And
my
his wife
God,
was, so his wife was one of the first ones to get a copy of the book as well, to just remember. He was a joy. And I was thinking, I'm like, I know exactly what my cover is going to be. And I was like, who do I know that looks like Moses? I'm like, Dave's got this great gray beard. And had him out for a fun photo shoot and just took fun. So, and I have enough photos that I have another one that I was thinking if I ever did another book and tacked on, I would call it another 10 commandments and Dave doing another.
oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
What a nice way to immortalize somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. And so that was going to lead me into asking you about your next book.
Yes. So we're just about to go live. Well, I guess the Facebook and Instagram pages are live because it's on. I had to create them. I haven't started sort of bringing in all of the nuggets of what's been happening, but this is a concept and it's in the kids sphere, but it's kind of ages up a little bit more like the Teen Titans Go, where adults can watch it as well. And this particular book, I've been pitching it around as a kids animated series and not having too much luck. A lot of people couldn't, because I'm not an artist, I couldn't really show them what I was envisioning in my head. So it was not landing very well. And then a producer one day said, you know what we should do? It's very hot right now for production companies to buy the rights, the IP, the intellectual property of existing books and graphic novels, as we see with Marvel and everything. Like it's all about purchasing the graphic novel or the book, which is huge as well. Most of the great Oscar-winning movies right now were books that were purchased and then turned into film. So what he said is, what you do is you build a following with a graphic novel with a built-in audience, then you present it to production companies, and everyone will start fighting for it because you already have a built-in audience. So I went, so I have to make a graphic novel. Okay, now what am I going to do? So a good friend of mine, Donald, with a company called Ottawa Brands in Ottawa, he got me in touch. He said, I have an artist. I was telling him my sob story, and he's like, that's what I do. So I met him through an acting friend, my movie husband out in Ottawa. He goes, oh my God, call Donald. You need to meet Donald. Donald will help you. So Donald's like, this is what I do. So he put me in touch. He got an incredible artist, Steve Legg, who is an award-winning Marvel artist. So he's a colorist for Marvel, and so we developed this graphic novel together. The IP's mine. And so now it's a matter of just releasing it to the world. So if people are interested, they can go to my Instagram and my Facebook page for Super Ninja Family. And slowly I'll be releasing the photos and sort of the behind the scenes. And then the book will be available for sale soon. And it looks great. And everyone who's read it, my family, friends who has read it on the screen, because I can only really show it, they read it and then they're laughing out loud. And then they go, okay, when's the next one? So I might actually have just fallen into another thing that's
goosebumps, man. Goosebumps. Like,
so we're talking about doing maybe Comic-Con in the summer, the Toronto Comic-Con, and see if about selling some and getting more. So right now it's about building the audience and getting the graphic novel.
Nice.
I already love the premise of it.
Yeah.
I love the premise. I'm like, it's going to be a smash. I can tell.
Yeah. And again, it's something that I kind of tend to write a lot about because I'm half Mexican, half Ukrainian. I don't really fit in. I'm not really white. I'm very brown when I'm with Ukrainians, and I'm very white when I'm with other Mexicans. So it's one of these things, that in between cultural things. So, and I get a lot of that, like, well, what are you exactly? And people think Italian and Portuguese, and I get all these guesses, but no one's really, and that concept of where's my representation? I'm like, where are the Mexican Ukrainians on television? I want to ask. So I'm more in that. I like to really center on the concept that that's a lot of particularly North America, but a lot of the world is we have mixed families. So
Yeah.
we have these kids that are growing up going, I don't belong to really either one. So the whole kind of message is that the father's Mexican, and that's where the magic comes from. These are super ninjas. So the super, they can disappear. Instead of having
cool.
those smoke bombs, they literally
Yeah.
disappear. That comes from the Aztec magic blood, and then the mother's Japanese, and that's where the ninja comes from. So the kids are the best of both worlds. They have the powers of both parents.
Very
So
cool.
that's kind of speaking to all those people out there. And I have a lot of friends that have mixed kids. They've married different people from different races.
Yeah.
Like, my kids are going to love this book because they're like, what am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great and very relevant because almost everyone I know now is mixed. There's very few people that, marry within their same heritage.
Right.
So very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds
we're
like
both
fun.
half and halves, Julie
Yeah.
and I.
Right. And what are your nationalities? What are you coming from?
I'm half Italian and half, I don't know, Macedonian, Bulgarian, Greek,
Okay.
that whole mix. Yeah.
Half Italian, half French.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
So
am I
I haven't been like talking with my hands much, but
That's fun. I usually do. That's one of my bucket
What do
lists. I
you
want to play an
want?
Italian
I-
mother.
Oh,
I would love to.
totally
you
could.
could do it. Yeah. But speaking of heritage, tell us a little bit about the your passion for elevating Hispanic actors in the industry and celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yeah, that was really important to me because I didn't know about it when I first, so I started, putting it on Instagram and finding crucial people in the Latino and Hispanic communities that have, done incredible things for history in general.
Mhm.
It was a good education for me as well. It became sort of, I guess it's my little torch, because right now there are no shows with like Hispanic centric shows on network television right now. The last one was probably like going back to like the George Lopez show. I hear it's coming back, but it's probably going to stream as far as I know, but there's nothing on network television. And when people say, oh, but Brooklyn Nine-Nine has been, no, that has been canceled. How about this? No, it's been canceled. So there's no show. Now on streaming, there are a couple of shows, but a lot of those shows are very, for me, not my kind of Hispanic, because I'm mixed, because I'm from Toronto. My experience is so different. I didn't grow up in the barrio. My mom wasn't a maid, or my dad wasn't a drug lord. Like, it was sort of like the stuff that and we didn't have a taco stand and everything. So it's one of the things that it's so stereotypical what is on television right now. I don't think it's really speaking to the rest of us. So I kind of have this mission of trying to get something and recognizing the fact that in the United States specifically, there are, I think it's the African American community is about 12% of America. The Hispanic community is 18%, and yet they have no television shows. I'm just like,
very bizarre.
what?
Interesting.
Like, major characters that are Hispanic or Latino on television shows, they're just not on network television. So my show that my literary agent is shopping around and that won the Writers Guild of Canada back in November, the script of the month, is called Hispanic-ish.
Oh.
My life. About a mother with 4 kids, surprisingly, who's trying to break into the acting world, but having this whole thing of like, what are you? Where can we put you? These kind of roles, and balancing the life of. So I aged my kids down when we were really chaotic.
Yeah.
Now they're teenagers, so they're a little bit more self-sufficient. But just kind of bringing on that fun perspective of what are you?
Yeah.
So you're like Canadianish, Hispanic-ish comedian.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fun.
That's funny. That's why we chose Canadianish, right? Because we were like, people that were born here, not born here, identify as Canadian, whatever. It's just a big umbrella.
All welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yay.
Wow, that's fantastic. Wow. So anything else you want to promote while we're here?
Always love people to visit my IMDb page, because my ratings get better. I've got some fun stuff coming up. As I mentioned, I've got a little part on Titans that's going to be coming up in the new season.
Awesome.
And I'm in don't blink, but I'm in the new Ari Aster movie. My kids are huge horror fans, so they were just tickled pink that I got in the new, it's Beau is Afraid with Joaquin Phoenix. I did not work with him. However, don't blink. I'm in the movie. I've got some lines.
Very
And so that's
cool.
going to be my first opportunity to actually go to because I've seen my stuff in indie films, you know,
Yeah.
in film festivals and whatnot, and people are there and you have your friends. That's going to be the first time that I actually buy a ticket, sit down, go, there, I'm in the movie.
Aw.
Everybody there at York Cinemas. That's me. I'm in a movie.
Good for you.
That's going to be good. So yeah, the career is building. So always would love people to just check out the IMDb page.
Yeah.
Follow me on Instagram. Would comedian Stephanie Herrera on Instagram. Would love people just to kind of follow the journey as Stephanie
Yeah.
Herrera. is
Yeah, we'll
doing.
definitely put all your links on the show notes
Yeah.
and make sure we promote that as well when we post the episode. So
Awesome.
thank you
That's
so
great.
much for taking the time today. I know it's you know, you're like a whirling dervish. I don't
I
know
know, right?
when do you stop? I don't know, but thanks for taking the time to
Thank you,
join us
lady.
today. It was a pleasure, and
Yeah.
I had so much fun.
Yay.
Me too. Yay. Thank you.
Thank you.